Carmi Levy is on the line. He is CTV's tech analyst. And Carmi, I guess we'll talk about, because when it comes to tech, of course, you'd always talk about the Pope. So how does the Pope Francis, the late Pope Francis, tie into tech exactly?
Yeah, I mean, it would be easy to assume that, what would the church possibly have to do with technology? But as it turns out, Pope Francis had a pretty intimate relationship with technology. He was speaking about it and calling for better regulation, better understanding, more morals, more ethics, almost from the beginning of his papacy. And that voice became even more, he became even more, focused on it the longer he was Pope. And so he started off by talking about social media, saying that we need to spend more time looking at each other, looking into each other's eyes instead of on our screens. He spoke and wrote passionately about social media's impact on kids, on mental health, and society's need to do more to ensure that children are protected. And then as artificial intelligence became more of a thing, he wrote and spoke about it as well, about the risks of AI to humanity, the need to make sure that we were always the ones controlling the technology, that the technology wasn't controlling us. And he was particularly worried about sustainability and equality, that he felt that AI had the potential to hurt methods of equality, to hurt our ability to level the playing field, so to speak, that the haves would have more because of AI if we weren't careful. And even right up until earlier this month, he was still posting on X. He was tweeting the need to be more ethical in AI development. And he was behind a major push. It was called the Rome Agreement, where major technology companies, including IBM and Microsoft and others, they agreed to develop AI ethically using a framework that the Pope helped create. So this was a guy that very quietly in the background was a passionate supporter of the proper use of technology. And throughout his entire life at the Vatican, he never let up on that. And I mean, that always, and I say this, I'm like you, I'm Jewish, so he certainly wasn't speaking to me as a follower. However, it was a message not just for Catholics, not just for those who followed him religiously. It was a message for the entire world. And I think he did a wonderful job with that. And you kind of hope that, as the conclave starts to gather and as they begin the process of selecting another pope, you kind of hope that legacy gets continued with whoever, ultimately is chosen as the next pope.
Well, great story. I had no idea. Thank you, Carmi. All right. Well, let's move on from that. Talk about something closer to home, which is, of course, what are we, 3 days away from a federal election? And surprise, surprise, although it's really not, we're finding out now there's been a dramatic and continues to be a dramatic rise in fake political content. So you really have to be, you have to be watching out for this. And of course, the problem is you have to be able to tell what's real and what's not. And that's not that easy to do sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes they look incredibly real. And this warning comes to us from Canada's Media Ecosystem Observatory. And they're noticing this absolute spike in the incidence of Facebook ads that look like they come from legitimate news sources. So it could be CTV, it could be an anchor. I've seen Omar Sachedina on one. I've seen other, anchors from other platforms in Canada. The CBC has also been implicated. It looks legit. It's got the real logos. It looks like it came right off the website, except they're talking about cryptocurrency and promoting fraudulent investment schemes. And so if this shows up in Facebook, it looks legit because, well, I know Omar Sachedina, but the sad reality is you click on that and you're being taken to a website you probably don't want to go to. And we've seen similar warnings from Elections Canada, from the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, from the CSE, our National Cryptologic Organization. So this is epidemic now. And because we're in an election, cyber criminals know this, and they're adapting their messaging to kind of mimic what we're seeing as part of the campaign. So, the onus, the responsibility is on all of us to really keep our eyes open, keep our heads on a swivel, and be incredibly cynical about what we see in our social media feeds, because increasingly they're not legit. They're designed to get us to believe untruths, or in some cases designed to defraud us based on the fact that, well, I'd be expected to see election messages in my feed anyway. I may as well click on it. Don't take the bait.
Wow. Okay. Then we move on to this story. And I know you kind of point out here that this can be kind of terrifying. I'm not even sure how. So ChatGPT apparently can now guess where a photo was taken. How would this work?
So basically what they've done is they've updated the model, the large language model that drives ChatGPT, that gives it its smarts. Now it can assess photos. It can assess imagery. It can zoom in all by itself. It can crop. It can rotate. And it can examine them, even if they're fuzzy or distorted. And it can look for visual cues, like maybe a storefront sign. You know, I'm standing in front of Schwartz's, and so it knows what the Schwartz's sign looks like. Maybe there's a street sign, like a marking, a street name on the corner, just off to the side of the photo. Maybe there's a menu, or maybe there's just a style of architecture. It can tell that I'm shooting down Sherbrooke Street, for example. And so it can pull all that together, and it's smart enough to be able to say, oh, I know what that is. That's on Boulevard Saint-Laurent. And sure enough, it's there. The scary thing here is we post pictures to social media and videos to social media all the time, and we assume that strangers can't trace them back to where they were posted. You'll want to be careful if you're taking pictures of, say, maybe the street near your house. If you don't want strangers to know where you live, you might want to be looking at what you're posting online, because now ChatGPT has this capability built right in. It's not even an app that you download separately. It's built right into the app that we're already all using.
I can see that, though, for police forces, this actually could be a bonus.
Oh, tremendously. And that's the thing. In the right hands, it can be used to solve crimes. It can be used by emergency services to locate things more quickly, to bring resources to bear. I mean, the potential for positive use is obviously there. The problem is the ChatGPT, or OpenAI, the company that brings it to us, they're not implementing any kind of guardrails. So they're not saying just for law enforcement or just for first responders. They're making it available to anyone. And even if criminals want it, you can rest assured they're playing with it now to figure out how to use it for not so bright purposes. That's the problem. It can be used for good. It can be used for bad. There's no protection against the latter.
Fair point. Last thing real quick, I'm fascinated by this. You ask, can your phone, your cell phone, last 10 years? And, of course, most people, a couple of years, boom, you upgrade to the next best thing. But I'm sure for a lot of people, if your phone's working fine, why would you want to toss it? So can you keep it for as long as 10 years? Who's making this happen?
You can. So there's this company called iFixit, and basically they provide sort of help to fix your phone and determine fixability and find parts and where to bring it in for service. And then there's a back market which sells refurbished devices. They're partnering up to give you the resources that you need to keep your phone lasting longer. If it's working fine, but the battery isn't so great after a few years, they'll tell you what you need to do to replace your battery. You just go to the website and they'll point you to the right place. And you're absolutely right. There's no reason why we need to replace our phones every 2 years. As long as it's doing the job that you want, you may as well stretch it out a little bit longer, especially because now we live in a high tariff environment. Those phones are going to get more expensive. We're going to want to hold on to them for a little bit longer. Initiatives like this certainly help. And here in Canada, we look at, go to Best Buy, Staples, Apple. They all have refurb programs, and they all have resources available to you if you want to stretch the life of your phone a little bit longer. We just had Earth Day a couple of days ago. What better way than to not buy another phone and toss your existing one in landfill, but to keep that same phone working a little bit longer?
Yeah, just on that sort of similar note, I was thinking I'll upgrade. I have an iPhone 13, but then I read, and I did not know this, the iPhone 13, for people who have iPhones, is the last iPhone model that actually has a SIM card, as opposed to, having to go somewhere and get an eSIM. Models after the 13, there's no such way as that. No, you can't go to the airport, buy a SIM card wherever you happen to be, and just pop it in your phone. The SIM card, the slot, does not exist anymore. I didn't know that.
Exactly. They use a new standard called eSIM, which is electronic SIM, and you have to sort of become. There are ways to download new SIMs and to have more than one SIM on the device and electronically switch from one to the other. But it is a new way of doing things. We can still have our cake and eat it too, but it's not as easy as popping it out of one phone and popping it into another. Those days are over after the iPhone 13.
There you go. The things you learned. Carmi, thanks so much.
Appreciate it, Aaron.
Take care. Carmi Levy, CTV Tech Analyst.